Okay, it looks like it is now live. So everybody who is watching the recording, hang out for a minute. I'm going to post the link into the Telegram channel, and then we'll get this kicked off. Yeah, it looks like we're live. I got the link. Telegram channel. Okay, and as always, I appreciate any help keeping an eye on the chat, and let me know if my internet connection starts to go bad. But I think everything is looking okay on my end so far. All right, so welcome everybody. Today is Wednesday, May 4th, 2022. I'm the head janitor of the Permissionless Software Foundation, and I'm joined by a lot of the usual cast and crew. Let's do a quick round of introductions before we jump into the agenda. Aaron Shoemaker, why don't you start off?
My name's Aaron Shoemaker. I do 360 VR, NFTs, and combining them with cryptocurrencies, especially stuff like SLP tokens, which you guys are working on. So.
Yeah, go ahead, Stoyan.
My name is Stoyan Zhikov, and once upon a time I helped with JavaScript libraries. I'm pretty much only talking.
Nice. Go ahead, Sam.
My name's Sam. I'm a PSF supporter, contributor, and I've been using the PSF as a vehicle for learning programming and using all the work of Chris and the PSF. So,
and you've been a great contributor. You find great bugs and you do pull requests, and really appreciate all of your guys' contribution. I mean, the PSF really is a group effort. Okay, well, let me go ahead and jump in the agenda. I'll share my screen. So as always, our agendas are on GitHub under the Permissionless Software Foundation GitHub group, under the TSC repository for Technical Steering Committee, and we file them as issues. So this is the one for today. Oh, this is actually dated. I had to postpone. I'll change that. Date. We always post the Zoom link here, and then we post the YouTube live link on. And the scope of the agenda covers the PSF core software, which is listed here. And for people who might be seeing this for the first time, I encourage you to go to cachestack.info. That's a great high-level introduction to the PSF core software. So these meetings are really an opportunity for us we have them every 2 weeks. It's an opportunity to just celebrate our technical achievements over the last 2 weeks. We'll go through the agenda, and then at the end of the agenda, we'll have a roundtable where we can just talk about news and tech and whatever tickles our fancy for the day. And as always, interrupt me at any time. Otherwise, I'll just go through the items, but I love being interrupted. I love feedback. So let me make this bigger. One of the things that I have been sort of preaching lately is Radical, and I've actually managed to reach out to the organization behind Radical a little bit. I did this article on my blog, so you can go there at troutsblog.com, and what's the URL it's showing here is the Web3 URL, and under censorship, I have this article on Radical, and I talk that my interest in Radical has been to have I'm concerned with the amount of deplatforming that I've been seeing increase on GitHub. Because ever since GitHub was bought out by Microsoft in 2018, they very quickly, or they're very quick to deplatform any code repository that even smells like Minecraft. They do not want any, they own Minecraft and they do not want any competition with Minecraft. And so anybody who's ever tried to like find code on GitHub around Minecraft, you'll come across a little bit of censorship.
Now they're
And
dealing with Sandbox then. That's basically a Minecraft clone on blockchain.
yeah, and that's the thing is maybe because it's blockchain and probably the code's not on GitHub. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know much about that project. But I've also seen it really step up with the YouTube download code. There's been sort of this cat and mouse game of censoring the source code around downloading YouTube videos.
Yeah, I've seen that too. I've had trouble where I'm trying to do a project for somebody and they're like, well, it's on YouTube, just download it. And you just can't download that one.
Yeah. And so I'm looking at Radical as just a place to back up our code, because I think if cryptocurrency gets, or when cryptocurrency gets a little more popular and threatens the US dollar a little more, and this narrative of cryptos destabilizing the financial system meme like ramps up, I think that the state, this is just a very easy lever for the state to pull to tell Microsoft, hey, start censoring cryptocurrency repositories. So when that day comes, I'm planning on that day coming probably sooner rather than later. I want us to have all of our source code backed up in multiple locations. So Filecoin's one of them. Radical is now this second one. So for anybody who wants to just sort of explore this, as an anti-censorship way, I've set up a seed node, which is kind of like a Git server. And so you can push any code repository to that seed node, and then Radical provides community seed nodes. So I've got step-by-step directions kind of pointing out the different stumbling blocks that I hit. And if you scroll all the way down to the bottom, I have just a basic workflow for mirroring a GitHub repository on Radical. And go ahead.
Can you, for example, already mirror clone the current PSF code to this Radical, and we can set some bot to on every hour or something to just push the changes, so we can be prepared even now maybe.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm trying to work up to, is just have a push to Radical as part of the CI/CD system, so that every time there's a new release, it just automatically gets pushed to Radical. Yeah, we're on the same wavelength there.
Where is everything stored on Radical? Is it Web3 solution, or is it still a server?
It's a little bit of both. It's ultimately it's a computer somewhere, so it's a server. But yeah, the seed node that I set up was just a very cheap, like a $5 a month cloud VPS. And I'm assuming that the official seed nodes that Radical's running are just bigger versions of those. It's all very new. They're coming out with their own token, and they have this sort of clunky, weird Ethereum integration that's not fully baked. I really don't know much about it, but you don't need to use the crypto side of things at all to use this. Right now, it's really just a Git server. It's just an alternative place to push a Git server. But
that's good.
It's not working very easy because of this crypto integration. It's always asking you for keys, and you need to every time to it's connecting to your wallet for your keys. So it was a little difficult to work with.
Yeah.
When I tried.
Yeah, it's a little clunky because they're using these SSH keys, and so it's a little hack on Git, and I think some of those hacks are necessary and some of them are not really necessary. The biggest change that I've seen in terms of a workflow is in the collaboration part, because GitHub has these things that are not, like issues and pull requests. Those are not native to Git. Those are GitHub inventions, and that's what controls a lot of the collaboration workflow. And so Radical's rethinking those parts, and so it's really interesting how it's really like if anybody likes the computer science behind distributed systems, a lot of this you can tell it was developed by computer scientists, because it's like your perspective on the code is your perspective, and everybody has a different perspective, which takes some getting used to, as opposed to GitHub, which kind of is like the global perspective, and then everybody just kind of is based on that. So the collaboration part is a little, it's not clunky. It's just that it takes there's a learning curve there. But in terms of just using it as a mirror for our existing GitHub repositories, that's pretty straightforward.
Yeah, seems like a good thing. I think we talked about this a while back about how GitHub itself can become an issue. I think we had a long conversation about this one TS technical steering committee, how all these people are like, everything's decentralized, but Ethereum's code's all on GitHub. What happens when they censor that? Well, yes, people are still going to have that code in their machines, but it's going to put a wrench in things for a while as people scramble to try to get that stuff back where it needs to be.
Yeah. And so a lot of people have suggested, because you're right, this has been an ongoing conversation. So this is really just the latest conversation in a step of conversations. But
good to see it.
People have recommended GitLab, and I don't know as much about GitLab. A lot of people are using that as an alternative to GitHub. The main difference there is I don't know if GitLab went down or if they got a letter from the state telling them to censor something. I don't know how that would play out. What I really like about Radical is it's truly like decentralized. There's no Radical as an organization could go out of existence and all this code would still work. And we would still have a way to collaborate. And I really like that. So that's the latest on that.
Anybody could spin up a Radical node, right? Am I right? Like,
yeah, I've got notes on how to do that in here. Yeah, seed nodes. So I've got some notes here on how to do a seed node. It was painful. It was painful, but it is possible. And yeah, it's interesting. So I caught throughout this process, I went to their Discord and I started talking to the devs. And I think I caught the eye of one of their developer relations guys. And he was saying that he was going to send me a retroactive bounty for the article I wrote. So we'll see. And then they have a grants program. So I started talking to him about, maybe there's some synergy between the PSF and Radical here. So that's an ongoing conversation. So hopefully there will be, I'd love these types of projects are very much in line with what we're doing. So just a few minor updates. We've talked in previous meetings about the freeloader problem, and I've talked about how I'm worried that this might splash onto our Web3 infrastructure. So I've been just sort of playing this cat and mouse game with the freeloaders. There is BCH API, which is actually, let me just pull up the cache stack. I think I've got it here somewhere. Yeah. So we've got BCH API, which is the REST API, and that talks to an indexer and a full node. And the biggest, what I showed in that previous meeting where I was going through some of the stats, they're pretty much just hammering this one endpoint, which is checking a balance, address balances. And so what I've done is I've added a cache. So if someone's requesting the balance on an address, the same address over and over and over again, and they're not using a JOT token, which means they're a freeloader, they're not paying for the service, then there's a 1 minute cache. So it'll just serve the contents of the cache rather than actually hitting fulcrum and doing actual computational load. So that's slowed it down. That's slowed down the load quite a bit. And of course, if you use a JOT token or you're running your own private instance using basic authentication, then the cache does not come into effect. It'll go directly to fulcrum for that information. So that's been a big help for fullstack.cache, reducing the load from freeloaders. And I also I added an artificial delay of 3 seconds. Again, if you're not using a paid account, or running your own instance. And what was the other thing I did? And I lowered the requests per minute from 20 to 10 requests per minute for a free account. So that has helped a lot. And it's actually increased the number of paying customers for fullstack.cash. So that's another good thing. And these, I'm anticipating that these techniques that we will have that some of these freeloaders will discover the Web3 infrastructure and they'll start hammering it pretty hard. So if and when that day comes, I think a lot of these lessons will translate to that. So it's always going to be a cat and mouse game. Yeah.
And I mean, we were talking about cluster nodes earlier. You got them running essentially with the PSF pay-to-write database, and it only makes sense to me that eventually Git and its mechanisms will find its way to some sort of cluster node run by somebody, and you can spin these up, and that's your repository essentially.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and to be clear, we want users, particularly with fullstack.cash. I want users. And I want to leave it open for anonymous usage. But what I was seeing when I used the term freeloaders, I'm seeing these server farms that have a huge block of IP addresses, and so they'll send each request with a different IP address. So these sorts of rate limit things like they can circumvent rate limits. And so that's been the real problem, for fullstack.cash.
So who would be targeting that with these server farms?
Who knows, man? I mean, I can only speculate. A lot of these IP addresses, they come from Vietnam and that sort of that area. Mm-hmm. Southeast Asia, and I've seen the same pattern of activity when I was running a testnet faucet. They would just play all these games, jumping between IP addresses and everything to try and milk this faucet. And I mean, they were testnet coins, so it was like, what are you doing, man? They're not worth anything. Why are you trying so hard? But it's just the weirdness of the internet. If there's a way, somebody will find it.
Interesting.
Yeah. Okay. So moving on, there's minimal SLP wallet. So a client of fullstack.cash reached out, and they're using minimal SLP wallet. It's an exchange, pretty big one, and it's pretty cool that they're using minimal SLP wallet. And they were like, hey, they have their own private instance of the cash stack, and they're using basic authentication rather than jot tokens, because if you're running your own instance, that's the best way to do it, to remove the rate limits but still prevent the general public from being able to use your infrastructure. And so minimal SLP wallet got an update to allow it to work with basic authentication. So if you're running your own cash stack and you want to go that route, so this is still the Web 2 architecture. You would create a basic authentication token. It's a ProPass environment variable, and you can now pass that into minimal SLP wallet.
How's that different from the JOT token?
So the JOT token is, issued periodically, typically once per month, or they expire. Whereas the basic authentication token doesn't expire. You can just set it up, and so it's more for like where the JOT token is better for individual users. The basic authentication is better for like a company-wide type thing. It's like, oh yeah, here's the company password essentially to the server. Don't share this. And if they do, if it gets leaked, it can be changed at any time. But that's essentially how it's being used.
I've been thinking about like different forms of user authentication. Mm-hmm. Like maybe like how I think memo.cash use the blockchain for authentication, don't they?
Yeah.
So that's a different form, right, of user auth. I was thinking of maybe building something using like a button that just uses the blockchain for authentication.
Mm-hmm. But this is different level. the one that you're talking is on application level. So your application will check for different stuff, but these jar tokens and basic authentication, they're on the, let's say,
HTTP?
transport level, HTTP level. Yes. That's why some of the clients, they just will not support your authentication, like curl, for example, or something else, because they need something HTTP related.
Okay.
Yes, sort of something in the middle that I think I shared with you guys in a previous meeting is one way to sort of simulate the JOT token would be to, instead of passing the string that you have that represents the JOT token in the header, you could pass a transaction ID and a Bitcoin address and a signed message. And then the server on the other end could verify that with the blockchain. So this would essentially be like proof of payment, which is essentially what the JOT token is doing. But I think, the authentication that you're talking about, Sam, is, I don't know if you probably weren't around back then, but when I was at bitcoin.com, we had the Badger Wallet web extension, and it was a fork of MetaMask, and a lot of websites
Still have it.
Yeah, you still have it. Yeah, so a lot of websites let you log in with that.
Oh wow, that's cool.
It had a little peak in popularity, but we just the Badger Wallet project kind of fell over, and so it hasn't been quite as popular. I'm trying to think of there was honest.cash that had a great integration, and I think read.cash might still have the integration. But then there was Lazy Fox. Lazy Fox was this like Upwork. It was like a remote worker thing, and they really had the best integration for that.
Okay, it's cool.
Okay, so minimal SLP wallet. Oh yeah, so everybody who's running a full node for the cash stack, whether it's eCash or Bitcoin Cash, they're both having a network upgrade on the 15th. So make sure you take if you're running the Docker container that we maintain, run these commands where you bring it down with Docker Compose down, and then update it with Docker Compose build no cache, and that will rebuild the full node from source and get it ready for then it'll be ready for the fork or for the network upgrade. And if you don't do that, if May 15th or May 16th rolls around and things are acting pretty funky on your system, you might have gotten forked off the network. Oh yeah, okay, so update on the multi-segmenting. This is something I haven't touched it in about a week, but I was getting really close. I have this, so I took, there's this repo, if anybody wants to check it out. I forked PSF BCH wallet, so our command line single address wallet. And I'm actively working in the CT unstable branch, if anybody wants to check out. And there's these two new codes, MS Mint and MS Send Spend File. And I basically have the workflow complete. There's just one last thing that I'm stuck on, and that's Bitcore can't do SLP op returns. And so I've got to find a way to generate basically a transaction with an op return output, serialize it as hex with BCH.js, then import it into Bitcore and finish the rest of the transaction that way. And so that's what I'm working on right now. That's like the final piece. But basically these two commands, we'd have a minting council, and when it's time to mint new tokens, everybody would who wants to participate would run this MS Send Spend File. And what it does is it essentially sends your private, one person in the council would be picked as like the aggregator who aggregates all the signatures and actually creates the transaction and broadcasts it. And it could be a different person each time. We picked at random. But everybody else who's not the aggregator, they just run this one command when it's time to mint some things. And what it essentially does is it gets all the information, including the private key needed to create the transaction, and sends it to them to the aggregator over the pay to write database. So it encrypts it and uploads that data to the pay to write database. And then once everybody's done that, the aggregator runs the multisig mint, which retrieves all the keys from all the encrypted keys from the pay to write database and decrypts them and generates the transaction and does the mint. And as part of that data, the minters also include the public key for a new wallet. And so basically the mint baton, after it gets minted, after it mints more tokens, the mint baton gets sent to the new wallet and the aggregator does not have the private keys for that. And so that's the basic workflow, is everybody sort of collaborates to make the mint happen. And then at the end of it, everybody has a new wallet that only they have the keys to, and the mint baton is locked into a new multi-signature wallet. So pretty happy with the progress I've been making on that.
So if I get this straight, after the mint happens, the minting baton goes to a new multi-sig wallet that is then used by the multi-sig council. So it prevents, multiple mintings, so you're mitigating a inflationary occurrence if you have a bad actor, essentially.
Yeah, well, what it does is it makes sure that no one person is in control of minting new tokens. And so the way I've coded it, you have to have at least 2 people. But you can have, it's like by default, it's a half of what it, so if you have 10 people, it would be a 5 of 10, or if you had 6 people, it would be a 3 of 6 type wallet, where you need that many signatures to make the mint happen. But then whoever does this process, basically you have your old wallet and your new wallet, and then the minting baton gets transferred to the new wallet. And so everybody at the end of it always ends up with a brand new wallet, which is good hygiene to sort of rotate wallets. Because I figure even if we don't mint tokens, we'll probably still all just go through the motions every 3 months, just for key rotation, make sure everybody's still active. And then people will be able to, if people can't make that or whatever, and they miss that one minting, they'll be able to come back in on it, the next 3 months or the next time it happens.
Yeah.
So they won't lose the ability. Like it's sort of like use it or lose it, but also you can come back in if you go away for a while.
Yeah.
So I'm really happy with this, because this multi-sig minting thing, it's a tough nut. Multi-sig in general is pretty tough thing to pull off, and nobody's ever been able to do it with SLP tokens. But there's a lot of very lucrative things that we can do with the PSF token, but I don't want to do it if I'm the only one holding the key. It's too risky.
I've seen people, they've made wallets where you could do 2 of 3 and with a time lock, so that you can only do it after a certain amount of time. Or just using I guess either a time or after a certain amount of blocks that you can, unlock or lock
Yeah, that's something to think about. Theoretically, it's not that hard to add a time lock to a transaction. It's it's part of every transaction. Usually it's just set to 0. But yeah, it's just a number that you set, like this can't be spent for like 100 blocks. Something to think about, definitely. Yeah, and that's the thing, is like right now I'm just trying to get the, like I said, if I could figure out this last step, then we'll have a basic workflow, and then we can really like pick it apart and try and figure out how to make it better and where are the flaws. But it's not gonna be done, by any means. It's just like it's gonna be possible. Right now it's not possible.
Yeah, I see a lot of use cases and applications for this thing, and even non-monetary means, we're talking about doing things with I was talking about the IPFS like cluster network to you earlier. And I see like this would be a perfect way to prevent spam on a cluster network and to authenticate. If you're running a cluster node, I can send you some tokens, you can utilize those tokens for pinning and then eventually sell them on the market if somebody else wants to use the pinning services, kind of like you're doing with PSF, but for larger file formats type of thing, you know. And then you have the minting council that's there to decide, well, how much does it cost to pin? And they can change that, you know. How much are we going to have a deflationary token or inflationary token, you know? So are we going to start dealing with decimals, or are we just going to mint more tokens on top of that? What does it take to be on the council, governance, that sort of thing?
Right.
You know, there's a lot of questions to be answered, and having it this way really makes a big difference.
Yeah. And, you know, the thing is once, this is why I'm so focused on just sort of that binary, like, it's either possible or not possible, because what we very well may end up doing is actually using something like Avalanche C chain to be our main token and actually have the minting council, just because we can leverage some of these DAO contracts. But if we're going to use the Bitcoin Cash chain, and by extension the eCash chain, like, we have to have multi-sig minting. Like, the minting council needs to have a way of multi-signature minting on every blockchain that we focus on. And it's much easier on Avalanche because they thought about this ahead of time. And so even if this process ends up being so clunky that we don't want to do it, you know, at least being able to do it, even if it is clunky, we can use the best blockchain for the job and the best tools for the job. But every blockchain that we sort of build a DEX and build bridges on, we really need to have this multi-signature capability. And a lot of organizations, I think, are in that same boat, just for basic security.
Is multi-sig on the X chain or only on the C chain?
It's on both.
It's on both. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, so the multi-signature on the X chain, because it's a UTXO based chain, it's very similar. It's much less clunky because but it's not nearly as full featured as the contracts on the C chain. You know, that's what, like, Stoyan showed us with all the DAO stuff, or we can even have it on Near. Like, at that point, we could have it on any EVM chain that has the best tooling for us. But any chain that we operate on, we really need to have a multi-sig capability for the tokens. Cool. So that's that. Yeah, and just a public service announcement that fullstack.cash infrastructure has been updated for the May 15th upgrade. And so that's right around the corner. That's next week or the week 2 weeks. So yeah, it's coming.
What will happen exactly on May 5th? I didn't follow the process. What exactly will change?
Yeah, that's a good question. So on the Bitcoin Cash side, they're getting 2 upgrades. They're getting native introspection, which is really cool. The scripts, when you write a program in script, it will be able to interrogate the transaction, like the op return code. You could actually put stuff. I mean, I might be butchering this because I'm not an expert. So hopefully someone will correct me if I'm wrong, and hopefully I'm not too wrong about this. But my understanding is that basically, like, the spending constraints can have information about that, about like what address is it going to, or you need to have a minimum amount going as an output, or like what is some data in the op return can be part of the spending limits. And then the other upgrade is moving from 32-bit integers to 64-bit integers. And that, from what I've heard, I don't understand. I mean, well, I do kind of understand it. When you have large numbers, then and you don't have 64-bit integers, you have to spend a lot of extra code to sort of get around that. And there's a limit to the number of codes that can be in any one script. There's a size limit and there's a number of opcode limits. And so trying to get around that number limitation has limited the functionality of some of these scripts, like what General Protocols is putting together with their AnyHedge contract. And I've heard that it is the stumbling block of why they have not been able to build a decentralized bridge between Bitcoin Cash and Smart BCH. So apparently when these changes go into effect, those are the two big business use cases that will be unlocked. Is they'll be able to now build a decentralized bridge between Bitcoin Cash and Smart BCH, and general protocols will have, a whole bunch of new things that they can do with their AnyHedge contracts, which is sort of a new way of doing stable coins, and so it's pretty cool. So I don't really know much more details beyond that, but I'm looking forward to seeing what they do with it. And then I
remember this conversation. There was pretty, long conversation, right? It's like, I remember them. So yeah, this will be two changes. Okay.
Mm-hmm. And then on the eCash side, I think it's just their normal network upgrade, but they posted a little info about the avalanche or the post consensus. I believe that's going to be I don't think it's really unlocked with this upgrade, but it's going to be unlocked very soon. Like I think in the next month, it won't run by default for a very long time, but people can start staking eCash and participating in Avalanche consensus for post consensus. And so post consensus is blocks, and pre consensus is transactions. And you got to do post consensus before you can do pre consensus. And essentially, post consensus protects against 51% attacks. And so if what was seen when they were forked off and they didn't have much hash power, these miners were griefing the network by creating these 32 megabyte blocks and filling them up with op return codes. It was essentially a 51% attack. Any legitimate miner that was trying to put out a legitimate block would get just crushed by these bigger miners, just putting out these griefing blocks. And so post consensus only really comes into effect during these extreme situations. 99% of the time, it's just going to be normal Bitcoin Nakamoto consensus, where the most proof of work is the longest chain, and that's what everybody follows. But in these extreme attack situations of selfish mining, like selfish mining or 51% attacks, the stakers who are staking the eCash can essentially vote on their nodes will essentially vote on if there's a fork in the blockchain. They can override Nakamoto consensus and say, no, this is the legit block that we vote on. And if enough of those stakers vote on that, then the network as a whole will reject the attacking miner, even though that has more proof of work. So that's the idea. And then it sets the stage for pre-consensus, which is like instantaneous transaction, secure zero confirmation transaction. So within a second, Bitcoin Cash has decided to go with double spend proofs, which works for about 95% of the use cases, but in particular exchange use cases does not work for that. And that's why ABC didn't like the double spend proof solution there. For merchants, it works great. But this Avalanche pre-consensus, that will allow within 1 second finality of a transaction that's essentially permanent, and it will work in an exchange situation, which is arguably one of the most important use cases.
It still takes about 10 minutes, right, for a confirmation on BCH.
Yeah.
And so with the Avalanche on eCash, it'll be like seconds for your.
Yeah.
Wow.
It'd be like 1 second. Yeah. And double spend proofs are pretty good. They, from the guys who implemented it that I talked to, they were saying, yeah, like 3 to 5 seconds. If you get basically what happens is if someone maliciously tries to double spend a transaction, in order to be successful, they have to do it within 3 seconds. Like otherwise the probability of it just goes to zero, basically, of them actually succeeding in a double spend.
With zero conf, there's a limit, right? To if I send a transaction to one wallet and then 5 seconds later I send that transaction to another one, there's a limit to how many times you can do that before it's confirmed, right? I don't know what that limit is. But
Yeah. So it depends what it comes down to the path that the transaction takes in the network. So like, again, like these are all like very extreme cases, but when you're talking about large amounts of money, like in an exchange situation, this is a very reasonable attack. So it's like, let's say, I go to Coinbase and I want to, do $1 million, exchange or whatever, $10,000 doesn't have to be an extreme number. $10,000, and let's say they implement, or let's say they implement double spend proofs, and so basically what happens is if you do a double spend, you try and spend the same UTXO twice. If you're using the same, if you use it like fullstack.cash, for example, you're using the same node every time to broadcast a transaction. So when you do that, that node's going to stop you right there. It's going to say, no, you've already spent this UTXO. I've already seen this. So it's going to refuse to propagate the second transaction, and you're going to get an error. And that's the normal case 99% of the time. If you're highly technical and you're maliciously trying to do a double spend, what you'll do is you'll send that second transaction to another node, probably on the other side of the world, and you'll broadcast them as closely in time as possible. And so it will depend on the path that the transactions each take to the miner that finds a block, and you don't know who that is. So this is statistic and not deterministic. And essentially it's whatever transaction finds its way to the miner first is the one that gets included in the block. And so this is where the double spend proof falls down, is if someone does that, like let's say you're using SideShift AI to swap $10,000 of Tether for Bitcoin. Well, if you do it once, like you set this up and you do it once and it doesn't work, then you just exchange it back and maybe you've lost, $2 in transaction fees. And then you do it again and you do it again and again and again. And if it doesn't work, you've lost like maybe $2 in transaction fees. But when it does work, you've gained, $1,000 or $10,000 or whatever that was. And so you can do it over and over and over again until it works. And that's why the double spend proof doesn't work for exchanges. So yeah, these are all extreme corner cases.
So you're teaching us how to get around the exchanges.
Yeah. If you guys want to attack an exchange, that's how you do it. Okay, so that's that. Update on the token decks. Let's see. So there is a UI. In fact, there is documentation up at bch-dex-docs.fullstack.cash. I just put this up this morning. So there's a high-level introduction video, step-by-step instructions on how to set it up on either a Raspberry Pi or a desktop PC, and then how to, once you pick your sort of hardware platform, step-by-step instructions on getting it up, how to prepare your web wallet. So there's a wallet that the DEX uses, and then there's the web wallet, which is the user interface. And so this shows you how to mirror the wallet in both. And then it works just like wallet.fullstack.cash. You send it some Bitcoin Cash, you send it some PSF tokens to pay for storage, you send it whatever tokens you want to trade. I think you guys have seen buying, where there's an orders tab that shows you all the tokens listed, and if you want to buy one, you just hit the take button. And then selling is the new thing. So you go into the tokens tab like you normally would for wallet.fullstack.cash, and there's this sell button now, and for each token. And so you click the sell button on the token you want to sell, you type in how much you want to sell and how much per token you want to sell it for, and then that will generate a new offer and put it onto the network. And then I added the documentation for recovering your funds. So the web wallet, you guys will appreciate this. I'm not sure the right way to communicate this in the documentation, but the web wallet, as you guys know, is a single address wallet. So it just uses, even though it uses a 12-word mnemonic, it just uses that root address. But the DEX, BCH DEX, uses the full HD capability of that mnemonic. And so when you generate an offer or a counter offer, it takes those tokens or that BCH and it puts it into a child address to make the set create this UTXO and set it aside so that it doesn't get spent accidentally. And so
Nice.
this chapter shows you how to, there's a script called Slp Wallet. And so it'll destroy all of your offers and counter offers and sort of clean up your wallet and sweep all your tokens of BCH back into the root wallet, which is what the web wallet can see. And so, yeah, everything's here. We've had a few people in the Telegram channel, like just really working hard to set this up and use it. There's quite a little bit of traffic on there. And I've switched to Docker images, so people don't have to build the Docker images locally. You can just pull the images, and I think that's a much easier thing for people to get set up. And so from here, I am going to hit the brakes on the Bitcoin Cash side. I'm going to fork what I've built for the eCash side and meet our contractual obligations on there, and then also circle back around to the Avalanche side and bring that up to feature parity. And once that's done, that's probably going to take a month or two. And once that's done, the PSF's contractual obligations with Ava Labs and the eCash GNC will be met, and we can move on to bridges and Multisigmentee. And so once we have the DEX and the bridges, I really, really want to build, ultimately, hopefully in the next 4 months, I would like to build a bridge that lets you exchange PSF tokens for USDC on the Avalanche C chain. So USDC-E, that's tradable at SideShift. So it'd be sweet. It would be sweet to just convert your PSF tokens into a stable coin and then move across all these different blockchains. But also before I'm comfortable doing that, even if we can do it technically, I'm not going to be comfortable doing that until we move the PSF token into a multi-sig wallet. And then on top of all that, Launchpad IP, let me show you guys one last thing. Launchpad IP is just smoking, which is mostly Daniel now, is just smoking along with token.fullstack.cache. So I've shown you guys this before, but this whole idea of attaching mutable and immutable data, BCH API just got an update that lets you. So this page, when you put a token ID in here, it makes like 7 API calls back and forth to figure out all this data. And so we've integrated it into BCH API. So now it only needs to make 1 API call to get all this data. And so now it's going into BCH.js, and then it'll go into minimal Slp wallet. And then I'll integrate that into wallet.fullstack.cache. And then we'll have permissionless token, updatable token icons, and all sorts of good stuff with that. And so that'll dovetail very nicely in with the DEXs, being able to create NFTs with icons and mutable data and then sell them on the DEX. Ta-da! That's the agenda. So yeah, nice.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so moving right along. But you guys have a pretty good sense here of where we're at in the trajectory. It's just the DEX, multi-segmenting, token icons. Those are really like my whole focus right now. And
Well, the mutable token data, that's awesome. And the next step would be for someone to come along and write the program like OpenSea has to take that data and resolve it in a web browser for people.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
Now you've got a nice marketplace,
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
the ability for a marketplace on that sort of thing.
And once this is a little more polished, the token icon thing, we're getting very close. But I've already started reaching out to Corbin at bitcoin.com, just saying, hey, I know you guys have a completely different way of doing icons for the bitcoin.com wallet, but if we can work together, I'd love to add legacy support for the token icon system they're using, and then they could very easily integrate our JavaScript library to resolve tokens in their wallet using this new system. So I'd love to just sing kumbaya with all these different token icon strategies. But let's turn the table. what have you guys been up to? What's excited about you? I got some great feedback in the Telegram channel this week, just talking to you all about different projects you're working on.
I hear you wanted to. I kind of forgot about the. I was working on the extension a while ago. I can show you. It actually works if I just share my screen.
Oh yeah, let me enable that.
Let me see here.
There you go. You should be able to share now.
Okay.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if you were still working on that or not.
It's functional. I think it just needs a few optimizations. Let's see if this works.
Yeah, I'd love to see it. Our Web3. I mean, it'd be perfect for our Web3 infrastructure.
I'm trying to get this thing showing me preferences for some reason. I think because I'm on a Mac.
If you're on Mac, you need to have recording settings to share, which is strange, but yeah, screen capture permissions to the browser, and you need to restart your browser.
Okay, I'll do that. Yeah, quit reopen. It's okay. I just reopened the browser.
I think even you needed to zoom maybe to share. So you will need to restart maybe the Zoom.
Let me try one more time. I have to restart Zoom too. Yeah, I think it might not work on this thing unless I come back in. So, yeah, I'll rejoin if anybody wants to.
Yeah, go ahead and try and get that going. We'll let you in if you pop out.
Okay.
What about Stoyan and Aaron? You guys working on anything or any hot takes?
Well, Stoyan got NFTs running on Zero Layer the other week. So are you familiar with that?
No, I haven't heard of Zero Layer.
Stoyan, you want to talk a little bit about it?
Let's finish with this, so we will jump between the topics. So let's see the extension. It's interesting. And then
definitely want to see the extension. I just haven't had the bandwidth to really dig into Sam's extension, but yeah, what little I saw of it, the code's really clean, and these web extensions are. I just can't believe they haven't gotten more attention than they have.
I think there was some security problems with the language that they're using or something. That's why they are like not using them more. Like because you are touching directly the browser stuff. So for example, maybe you can touch your MetaMask extension and just get the funds from there. I don't know.
Oh yeah. If they have like a shared area in the browser, so one extension can like take data from another extension. Yeah, I could see that being a big problem.
Okay, I think I'm sharing the am I sharing my browser?
Yeah.
This is actually this is the DEX right here that I'm running on my main computer. So I'm still having an issue. Well, I'll show the let me show what's it called? The extension. You see it? I think here it is.
Yeah, nice.
And see, it's basically just the BSH of wallet. It's pointing to wallet.fullstack. And
nice.
Since I figured it was mobile first, I really didn't have to do anything with the CSS or anything. So it's actually I'm just pointing to wallet.fullstack, and it seems like it's fully functional. Just the token takes awesome. they take a while to populate.
This goes back to the token icon thing, because it's got like this half in it. Oh yeah, cool. You got the animated NFT I sent out.
So yeah, it seems like it's fully functional. So nice. I'm not sure what optimizations I would need to work on there.
Yeah. I mean, this is so great, because what I'd like to see from here is switch it over instead of using the Web 2 fullstack.cache infrastructure, switched over to use free bch.fullstack.cache, the Web 3 infra. And then that would let people switch between different Web 3 backends. So if one's down, they just switch to another one, and no one's really like responsible for keeping the backend up. Okay. And then the tokens, they're a very slow load right now because it's trying to make all those API calls to figure out like the token information, and so that's going to get a lot faster in the next like 3 weeks.
And I had one question about this is a BCH deck, so I launched the shell scripts, so they're not running in a Docker container.
Mm-hmm.
I was like the BCH, the UI, it caused the BCH decks, right? I'm trying to figure out where it fetches where the orders are populated from, because
I should have sent out an update about this. I actually blew away the old. You probably need to delete the Dex UI repo and reclone it from GitHub, because it was the first one was forked from the fullstack.cache web wallet, and I realized I needed to fork it from the Gatsby theme and not the Gatsby starter. And so I had like UI2 for a while, but just yesterday I deleted the old repo and replaced it with the new one. So, and there were a lot of bugs. So if you're running the Docker container, all of that just happens automatically for you. But if you're running from source code, go ahead and just reclone the Dex UI repo and rebuild it, and it'll fix these issues.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I didn't tell anybody because I was just focused on the Raspberry Pi Docker container. Sweet. Yeah, man, this is great. I love it that you're out here running this from source. This is exactly how things get better.
I could stop sharing now. I'm trying to figure out.
I can take control. There we go. Okay. Well, okay. So what's zero layer?
Can I share my screen?
Yeah, should be able to.
Share.
But yeah, Sam, that extension, man, just keep that. I haven't had the bandwidth to really get into it, but man, that extension is so valuable. There's just the fact that you've packaged it the way you've packaged it, just the way it is that's so valuable. We're going to need that in the future.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I figure it's a cool little utility, when you just want to get to it really quick.
Mm-hmm.
But
am I up or?
Yeah, we can see your screen, Stoyan. Layer Zero Labs.
So yeah, these guys, they're creating a pretty interesting utility. How to say this? They just deployed contracts on different blockchains and allow messaging between these contracts. So you can send message between, for example, AVAX C chain and Polygon. And this message can be everything. It's just encoded binary code, like something, some structure. So you can use this kind of inter-messaging for different stuff. And inside their repository, they have examples for fungible token and for non-fungible token contract. So you can just encode your like NFT mint call, send it like a message to the other blockchain, and in the same moment you can burn the old token on the one blockchain. Everything this is automated. So they created one call which is named like traverse chains, and you just give them this call like some message, and it will do automatically for you the burning plus minting on the other blockchain. So it's like a little mini bridge. And I how to see, I succeeded in transferring the NFT between the two blockchains. So it was pretty cool. You can do the same with fungible tokens, which solve the problems with PSF tokens. You don't need to have a bridge. If you how to see, and to be compatible with this thing, you just need to inherit your smart contract from their smart contract. So if you do this, this inheritance will add 1 or 2 methods to your contract, and you have bridge ready. You don't need to have a special bridge created for the PSF token. It will go between the chains, which is pretty cool.
That is pretty cool.
Yeah. So you can they have a great documentation. It's on Github, I think.
Okay.
So if you have time, just check them. Everything is, I think, open sources and documentation. They just the little problem in the moment is that they don't have these contracts on many blockchains. They just support like 4 or 5, but these essentials ones are there. AVAX is there. There's just no smart BCH. So yeah.
Nice. Now does it cost gas for that transaction?
This also is like great. When you transfer, what I tried was to transfer from Polygon to Phantom. So on your original chain, when you make a call, you just give them some amount of tokens, like Matic in this case, and you can give them a lot. And the cool stuff is it's using exactly as needed for the transfer and returning you back to your initial wallet, the rest not use it token. Everything is automatically. So you can tell him, for example, transfer, like transfer my NFT to Phantom, and I paid with my Matics, like 2 Matics, which is too much, like $5 something. So it's make the transfer and return to me like 4.90 something back to my wallet.
Nice. So that's an interesting approach. I haven't heard of a contract doing that where they like just send us more than we need and we'll send you back. That's an easy solution.
Because they don't know how much it will cost. In case of Ethereum, you need to send a lot, like 100 of Matics or something. But when they do the transfer, they return you back the rest. Wow. So it's like great organization.
Wow. That sounds pretty useful.
I actually got one of Stoyan's NFTs on Polygon, and I transferred it to Phantom. So I crossed the bridge, the zero layer bridge.
Nice.
But, and that's what's exciting, and some of the stuff that Stoyan and I talk about on the Roots Up chat, on Fridays. So anybody that wants to do a deeper dive into NFTs, I hope you don't mind me plugging that at all,
no,
Chris.
Yeah, go for it.
Anybody that wants to do a deeper dive into NFTs and VR and XR space stuff like that, Dorian and I do that on Friday mornings at like 10:30 Central Time, so it'd be like 8:30 Pacific. And then we get guests on that are we had Will Burns from Superworld on talking to us about NFTs there, and then we had Nathan Gruchelli on that was talking to us all about making hoverboards in the metaverse that you can actually move around on, and their NFTs and their 3D assets. And we're talking about, the challenges of doing 3D assets as NFTs and loading them into games, and because those things are really just starting to get going. And so like the zero layer makes a ton of sense from that standpoint, that if I make a 3D asset and I put it on Polygon and you want to take that asset to a game on Phantom, totally fine, or Near or Avalanche. Cause I know on the Harmony chain, there's a big game and they're doing their expansion on Avalanche. Right. So this would mean that if any new, and if the zero layer had a contract on Harmony, then any new stuff created on Harmony could then be transferred to Avalanche to play in that game. Unfortunately, like anything that was created before is not transferable the same way. But it does mean big stuff for us as like 3D creators, XR creators, game creators. But that's also why I really am excited about the PSF token, or the token DEX and the SLP token, because I see this as an extremely cheap way to create game assets in the future.
Yeah. Speaking of that, I was syncing an SLP indexer yesterday, and I noticed that the majority of the SLP traffic these days on the Bitcoin Cash chain is Sweet.io, which they have they're a client of fullstack.cash, and they have an app. It sort of gamifies Pandora. You get NFT prizes for listening to music. And so they're generating a lot of NFTs. But then Enter the Sphere is this game on Bitcoin Cash, and they're generating, it's funny to see all the different game assets come through the indexer, like bulletproof pants and what are some of the other ones? But yeah, just all sorts of like loot that you'd have in a video game, and they're all flying through because anytime an NFT comes through, the indexer kind of tells you what it is. And so I really want to play that game now that I've seen that. I mean, I don't know if these assets are actually in the game or if they're just building them to have them stockpiled. But yeah, a lot of like really interesting sounding loot that they're creating. And yeah, I'm excited. I think gaming, SLP tokens and gaming, like we haven't even seen any like that at all yet. It's just getting started. I think with these token icons, that's gonna just add a little rocket fuel to the little fire that's happening right now.
Yeah, I think that what's nice about the bridge and stuff like that, it means that I've been saying this for like a year or so. When things are interoperable, people are going to go to the cheapest chain to produce their NFTs. You know, and they're going to go to the cheapest chain to produce their game assets. And so that means that I think you could see a huge influx into BCH, because it seems like everybody on BCH and the eCash side have just kind of had their nose to the grindstone. And maybe that's because coming from the Bitcoin side, you went through the hype in like 2014 through 2016. And then, you know, now everybody else is in their hype phase, and you're like, we're working, you know, we're making things that are going to work. And now you got the multi-sig wallet, you got the DEX, you know, the multi-sig could apply to game developers as well. Like you're a game developer company. So not one person could just mint a bunch of swords and then sell them, for, you know, on the side. Now you have a multi-sig minting function for your game assets, you know. So
well, yeah, and that zero layer application, that's got my gears turning, because I mean, unfortunately it's too easy to burn tokens on the Bitcoin Cash side. But I mean that would be that's interesting to see. Their application is you burn the NFT on one blockchain and then you mint it on the next blockchain, because we can definitely do that. That is definitely a way to move an NFT across blockchains. Yeah,
and I think it'd be great. And the thing is, like, with Avalanche and BCH and eCash, way cheaper. Yeah. And then like when we were trying to do the demonstration with Polygon the other day, we were having trouble because the network was too congested, because all these people jumped from Ethereum because there was some announcement where layer 2's not coming out yet. You know, of course they pushed it back. And so all these devs jumped back to Polygon, and then it's congested. And, you know, so when you're looking at like, I want speed and reliability, I think, you know, BCH and eCash and Avalanche are probably three of the best chains for that right now.
But by the way, one more cool thing that I was doing, I just remember now when he's talking. Do you know that the Anchor protocol is already available on AVAX too?
I think I had heard that. Yeah.
It's
but I need a
great.
refresher. What's the Avalanche protocol do? Or like what's its use case?
It's Anchor, and maybe if I show you, it will be easier. Do you have still time?
Yeah.
Just a second to see. Yeah. Okay, so it's very cool and it's very timely now because we're facing some like winter coming. So you're faced with what to do with your AVAX. Should you sell it or what to do with this? And this guy's
right.
coming just in time now to how to see,
There we go.
giving you. So this Banky or something, they provide you with a way to stake your AVAX. So when you stake it with them, they will give you something named like what was S-AVAX or something. Why it's not starting? I need to connect maybe my wallet. Okay. Or it's not. Do you see my screen? In fact,
Yeah, we can see your screen.
just don't announce my financial status because I have a full AVAX in my wallet.
Well, it is. We are live
Yeah.
on YouTube.
Yeah, it's like too much, maybe. So
That's Stoyan.
Yeah,
so you're staking with them, and why is this guy so slow? It's because it's Zoom here.
might be.
Everybody's on your network at like 2 a.m, Stoyan. That's what's going on.
Where is my AVAX? Here.
Do you got enough wallets there?
See, I have a full AVAX. So yeah, so first step, you go to this Banky site and you stake your AVAX, and in return you get this S-AVAX. And when you have this S-AVAX, you can use it for different DeFi projects. So it's named liquid staking because it's not just putting them there. They return you put there like 10 AVAX, and they will give you 10 S-AVAX. And you can use it for what you want. There's like several options here. You can provide liquidity or something. But the one that I like is this Anchor, because I'm using it on Terra. It's originally the Luna Terra protocol. So what you can do is you can you get this S-AVAX, you put them here in Anchor, and you can get UST, the stable coin. And you can borrow this UST and use it for what you want. For example, to buy the cheap Bitcoin or something. So when the winter is over, you just, then all the tokens will go up. So you return your UST and you get your AVAX back.
Yeah.
Because you didn't sell it. You just like put it here like collateral.
That's awesome. This is a trading technique. I know I'm actually a little excited if we do have a little bit of a crypto winter, because that's when this trading technique, that's the only time when this trading technique, in my opinion, should be used. But if you feel like the bottom's in, then and you're willing to take a bet on that, then you can get leverage to buy. Yeah, that's what I did. Is I bought. I did a very similar contract. It's called Teddy, where you get the stable coin, and so I staked some Avalanche at $70, and then I used that Teddy to buy more Avalanche. So that was my leverage.
Yeah.
And then I sold when it went up to 90, and so I ended up with more AVAX. You know, it wasn't really about the dollars; it was about getting more AVAX.
Yeah,
and making a bet that the price is going to go up.
I've done the same with this, this Anchor. I get UST and I bought more AVAX. And if it's go to zero, whatever. It's like then the AVAX will go also to zero. I don't care. I will lose it. And it will be loserless, but they will not go to zero. I think they will go up. So I can return my borrowed assets and still have this AVAX.
But for anybody who's interested in doing this, you have to be aware that the leverage works both ways. If you're wrong and the market and the price goes down, that means you lose even more, and potentially everything.
But in this case, it should go a lot down because it's pretty like a wild range. Like now for AVAX, it's need to go below $40 or something, which will not happen soon. I think it should be some big fold.
It just hit like 55 yesterday.
But in this case, you just buy a lot of cheap AVAX and put more collateral if you want to keep it.
Yeah.
So you just need to be careful, but it's not disaster.
Yeah. Yeah. As long as you're just using money you don't mind losing, it's all good.
Yeah, no.
So it's kind of like options trading, and
yeah, I mean it's leverage. It's like margin trading when when you trade on margin, it's like, okay, well I'll post $100, but you're going to give me $200 in credit, so I'm actually trading with $300. But that means like, so any gains you get 3x, but any losses you get 3x.
Oh.
So
Jeez.
it's a double-edged sword. So it's like you really need to be right on that bet.
Yeah,
otherwise you're going to lose your shirt.
To narrow too much your stop loss, because if it's go below this, you lose everything. Yeah. So you need to be precise.
I feel like you got to have the time to put in to watch the markets and be able to do that sort of thing. And that's why I've never been about like, let's give it a try. Let's do this,
Yeah. What I like about it is the freedom aspect. Is it's like, okay, if you want to do it, then then do it. Yeah. It's your money, and it's an over collateralized loan, so you're not adding any systemic risk. It's not like this thing could blow up and like systemically have an issue, because they're all, at least the ones that I've seen, they're all over collateralized, and because they're over collateralized, you really don't need a nanny state to tell you what you can and can't do. Just get in there and do it.
Yeah. Interesting.
That's the part of the narrative that gets lost when the U.S. Treasury in particular keeps raising this as an issue of like, this could be like 2008 over again, like this is like systemically an issue, and they never point out the fact that these are all over collateralized, so there's no possible way that this could be a systemic issue.
Yeah, and it's I see a lot of fear mongering going on about cryptocurrencies lately, where they're like, are they going to do something? Are they going to regulate? And part of me is like, do these people not get what the blockchain is, and not see how, Russia did things, China did things, it hasn't stopped it, and
the analogy I keep coming back to is blogs and newspapers. The newspaper industry in the 90s was this giant behemoth, and they couldn't even perceive the threat, let alone fight it. Craigslist and blogs would completely, kneecap this giant behemoth of an industry. And that's exactly what's happening right now with crypto. Is the U.S. Treasury and all these central banks, they don't even understand what's happening right now. They can't see it. They have zero visibility into what's happening. One of the things that I would love to know more about, I wish somebody would do a documentary on this, is how Tether and other stable coins, but it really started with Tether, is being used in like the Philippines and all those Southeast Asian island countries, just to do trade. And it has been for 5-6 years. That's kind of how things get done out there, particularly when you don't have a good banking system or any of the things that like Americans take for granted in terms of the banking systems. And that's all completely off the radar. There's like whole countries getting things done using these tools, and the central banks of the world have like zero visibility into any of that, and so they don't even know what they're fighting.
Well, they want to KYC everybody, don't they?
Yeah, they do, and I'm on spaces where people aren't as similar minded as us, and they're like, well, we need a government authentication system that. Yeah, and I'm like, I don't think you get what you're asking for, and what can happen if that is put into place. But one of the projects I'm working on, besides a cluster node network for IPFS for testing, and then eventually for running and recursive pinning for websites, because I'd like to start migrating from Web 2 platforms to Web 3 for when I'm building websites for people.
Mhm.
But one of those things that I'm working on is like I talked to a local coffee shop in town, and they said, well, we got this problem that during COVID, we started doing a lot of at-home cold brew stuff, and now it's caught up with us because the shop's open again and we can't keep it on stock. And I want to separate the orders. I was like, you could just make a coffee token, and you could distribute the coffee token, and people come in and redeem it for cold brew. But the good thing is, if the ice cream shop makes an ice cream token, guess what? They can trade the coffee token for the ice cream token and come in and redeem it. And he's like, oh, wow. I'm like, yeah, and you don't even have to worry about it, So like I could set up a Dex and a full stack here, in Omaha, and start encouraging the local ice cream shop, the local taco shop, the local coffee shop to start distributing these tokens. And now we're moving, and I think we had this conversation before, Chris, where we're like, money has evolved from bartering system to I got money so I don't have to bring everything to market, to like now the money's not backed by anything, to now I think the logical progression is tokens that we exchange on a DEX, kind of back to the barter system, like full circle,
Yeah, commodities. That's what we're moving into, is a commodity.
Yeah.
The dollar is backed by gold, and then it was backed by oil, and now it's going to be backed by commodities again, or money in general is going to be backed by commodity, whether that's ice cream or coffee or oil or gold. They're all commodities. So, all right, well, it's been about an hour and 20 minutes. Let's go ahead and take the live stream down, and then we'll hang out for a little after hours deal. So anybody who's watching this recording, thank you. Anybody who's watching it live, thank you. I'm going to check and see. Oh yeah, Crazy Money's been in there. When's the Mexico visit? Probably next winter, and probably not down to your neck of the woods, buddy. But the next winter, I am planning on coming down to the Yucatan Peninsula, if my schedule doesn't get interrupted.
Is that Crazy Money?
Yeah, Crazy Money.
What's up?
And yeah, right on. Okay, well, I'm going to go ahead and take this off of YouTube. You guys have anything you want to say before I do that?
No. Everybody stay safe and keep fighting the good fight.
Right on.